So what are some of the benefits of flipped learning? Now, I've taken some of this from two papers, which I've put into the flip chart. So you'll get links to both of those. Do let me know if you want the one from BJet, and I can probably download that and send you a copy. So first benefit of flipped learning is surrounding metacognition, or the ability to monitor your own learning and adapt your approach depending on the task at hand. And this, of course, allows students to direct their own learning. Teaching metacognitive skills has been shown to be more effective for lower attaining students, and so can help to close the attainment gap that is present in many schools and has been widened during the school closures that we've seen in the last couple of years. Lee et al., which was one of the papers that I looked at, also found that students showed positive attitudes towards collaborating and communicating with their peers and were more willing to take part in discussions in class, also citing that students reported reduced social anxiety following the pre-learning activities. And that's something that I have definitely witnessed with my classes. Greater creative thinking tendency was also reported in a different report by Xia, Ling and Quang in 2021, when flipped learning was used in the creation of choreography, so in something completely different. Flipped learning empowers students to immerse themselves in a topic prior to experiencing it in the classroom by making notes and attempting a few questions. Ultimately, this saves precious time in lessons and allows the teacher to embed the application of the theory that the students have learned at home, which in my experience not only shifts feedback more into the lesson as opposed to marking homework tasks after completion in my evenings, but makes me feel like I'm having a greater impact in the classroom. So what have I found have been key to successful flipped learning? Well, the first thing that I found is that students need access to good quality materials. I source these mostly on YouTube. It's mostly video. I would say about 2/3 video to 1/3 textual or text and diagrammatic, if I find that better. So first of all, I have to look to see if there's a good video on YouTube, and of course I have to watch it myself. But all of my videos that I share with my classes are kind of 7 minutes or less, and for younger year groups in Key Stage 3, I try to make them less than 5 minutes. I use my LMS. We use Google Classroom at my school to distribute these, and students are used to now getting into the habit. So I've used this consistently since September. In terms of textual, I may use a link to, say, something like bite size, so something that is simple enough that I know and sort of broken down so that I know that they can get the key points from the learning, and it's not huge amounts of reading. And I also use a revision guide. I don't use a textbook. The revision guides just seem so much better for summarising the learning that I want them to understand. I also make sure that I give adequate time for preparation. And I would say that this that I've given to you today, 2 nights in advance, is not adequate time really for preparation. So I like to have as long as possible, so say about a week or a half a week, if not, in terms of time between when I'm setting the flipped learning task and when we will discuss it in class. And also adequate time and importance placed upon that opportunity to discuss what they've learned, because that gives it value. Pupil voice is the next one. I very much look at what works and have collected feedback via an exit ticket when we were about 10 lessons in. And this really helped me to know what format the students liked and which of the particular videos that they had really appreciated. GCSE students wanted me to vary the computer science videos from Craig and Dave and sometimes do my own, and they really appreciate when I make videos. When I've not been able to find something on YouTube, I would make my own videos. that would explain what I wanted them to know, and I could then control that I was keeping it below 5 minutes as well. And they really, really love when you make your own videos. So that was some really important feedback. They also liked the text that they said that the text that we'd set was really easy to read, which is great. And they really liked the fact that they could go over things more than once and check their understanding. So on to gameful learning, which I'm using in partnership with Flipped Learning. What is it and what is it not? Just to be really, really clear. So it's not game-based learning. So I'm not talking about playing educational games to learn. Like if I was to set my students building a chemical compound in Minecraft, that would be game-based learning, not gameful learning. Although gameful learning could include a bit of game-based learning, and it's also not gamified learning. So where people talk about gamified learning, they're talking about simple elements being borrowed from games like leaderboards or fun avatars, digital badges to reward and engage and motivate, like we see in Quizzes or Kahoot. Gameful learning makes the learning experience like a game. So what it tries to do is take the most engaging and motivating aspects in order to make learning as appealing and as hopefully addictive as gaming. Now, I've taken my knowledge again from some research, most of it done by the University of Michigan, but also from Jared Rigby, who has looked very carefully also at this and tried to apply it then to kind of a UK context and an international school context about how it can be used in the classroom in secondary schools. And it really looks at three kind of areas. And one is covering autonomy, students making their own choices about their learning. One is frameworks to success. So making sure that challenge is always within reach, is not so challenging as to be scary, but that skills can be built up over time and it feels achievable yet difficult. And of course, with that as well, with the framework to success is included the ability to be able to repeat and to make mistakes and it not be the end of the world, and that we learn from that as we're upwardly moving through our learning journey. And both of these things also have to go with the fact that that belonging is a key part of gameful learning, that students feel connected to you, connected to the material, connected to the challenges and their choices, and connected to each other as well. So there's a huge sense of belonging to the learning environment that is felt through gameful learning. And through everything that I've read, I've kind of thought that 5 main principles seem to be in effect here. Number 1, the idea of building up from zero. So students see all the criteria at the beginning of the course or the project or the topic. So rather than working, like having these mystery lessons that we sometimes present students with, where they don't really know what's coming up, we show them criteria for success in that topic. So, what should you be able to understand or be able to do by the time the topic is finished? And instead of it being something that is just assessed at the end of the topic, like how many of these things can you do by the end, actually they can achieve points, they can build up points in their skills over the course of the unit. And what I tend to do now with all my topics is we will give a project and there will be rubric for that, and the students will actually gain points as they move through the project. So it will be out of, say, 18 the first week, they might only get a maximum of 3. So they then get 3 out of 18, but they know that the next week they can score another 2 points. And one thing that I've seen done in other schools, and I don't do this, but it's definitely possible in terms of the choice of route of success, is that you give them a wide range of choices of task, and they can choose to do some small ones. They could do lots of small ones, or they could do a big one, a big more challenging task. And they would the 3 small tasks would be the same points as one challenging, more challenging and longer task. And I've seen this done really, really effectively in maths, actually, in my school with something called Maths Cafe, and in my daughter's school as well, where they're given bronze, silver, gold, and platinum tasks, and each of them have a different point value, and they can make up the points, the 20 points for the lesson, based on their choice of level of difficulty and complexity of challenge. So that's one way in terms of both of point one and point two. But I mean, menus of activities is one way, but also ways of completion, having choice over your way of completion is another way there. And they can achieve points, of course, and they can gain points over a course of a unit by tackling that task in the way that they choose. Another way, and this is one thing that flipped learning has really enabled me to be able to do much more in lessons, is to give immediate and ongoing feedback. So this is marked against the rubric. So I very much use the idea of hand in, hand back, move forward, so that we're learning all the time when we hand in any kind of work. Auto grading also used where I can, and this is in line with, I suppose, gamification. So as much as if I just want to quickly confirm understanding, then I would use a quick Google form that's auto graded. We also use peer feedback, incorporate that, and student reflection. Self-reflection, so that we value all kinds of feedback. Feedback comes in all kinds of forms, and all of it is designed to move us on. And we've really focused this year on peer feedback within project work, very successfully, in giving them frameworks within which to do that, so that all the students feel like they really are benefiting from the feedback and actioning the feedback as well that they get, and that seems to have been very successful. The fourth point is really the freedom to fail, and this really goes along with the immediate and ongoing feedback. If something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. You just try new approaches in a really low stakes way. And the low stakes intermediary assessments through exit tickets throughout the unit really allows students to kind of go, okay, so that was not my best lesson, that was not my best outcome, I need to revisit that next lesson. And they're doing that much more, although initially guided by me, I'm seeing much more reattempts at learning. And this is something that I've seen on apps like Quizzes, where you can set up a quiz for them to reattempt as much as they want to. And I would see girls doing that a load, and then worrying about handing something in. And so the worry about handing something in when it's not quite perfect has really decreased, I found, in my classes through this. And the other thing, and this kind of goes along with it all, but definitely with building up from zero, is that the course requirements are really transparent. So I use my LMS to show what's coming up and criteria for how you can succeed. And it struck me when I was preparing this, along with the GDST vision for BET, that kind of couples with sessions in BET, how much the gameful learning principles align with girl-focused learning principles. So things like building partnerships for learning, providing feedback which encourages growth, establishing confidence, embracing challenge, and taking risks are all things which gameful learning really promotes and embodies. And that's what I've found has been the real success with the students that I've worked with doing gameful learning and flipped learning this term. So the only question to ask now is, are you ready?